Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele. I'm flying solo this week, and so once again, by the way, just an FYI, this is episode 8, not episode number 9. I just saw that, made the mistake. The title of the episode is correct, though, When We Are in Need. So I should say this is the 8th live stream for The Last of Us. And so we are now officially 2 months into this. And this show just keeps getting better and better. Now, I have that. All that being said, I have played the game, so I know, I know exactly what's going to happen. I know the story behind it, but it still doesn't detract for any of it. Um, it just everything about this show just keeps getting better and better and better. And yeah, I mean, it's so story driven that it's just impeccable. So as we begin, um, we have Ellie, who's basically nursing Joel back to health. And, you know, you would have never have seen this in any prior episodes or anything else. And it's just, this is the kind of story that it's so well done that you see the transformation over the course of the season. And I think that it's hard to believe. I mean, a little side note for a minute. This is going to be 10 years, okay? 10 years that The Last of Us video game has been out. 10 years. That just tells you something. So we see Ellie back, trying to get Joel nursing him back to health, and it just so from there it's one of those things where let me tell you about the episode in general. Overall, I liked it. I knew of the story, but I liked it. We got a little, so when Ellie was hunting, okay, that was, because obviously in the game it's a lot different, right? It's a lot different when you're hunting and you're not getting any of the backstory or whatever. I like the fact that when we are talking, or when she's talking with David, we get a backstory. He used to be a math teacher in high school, and that was an interest until the apocalypse happened, until the pandemic happened, and then everything changed, and he became a preacher. A little snappy line there. So you went from being a teacher to a preacher. Craig Mazin, the screenwriting for this was just, and it's just been on point the whole time. Yeah. So, but that being said, we get a little bit of backstory behind David, where in the game you're not getting that. The other thing too is the settlement. You're getting a backstory on the settlement too. And I think that that's important too. I mean, why we don't go into deep dives into all the characters? I mean, we do for one particular wife and daughter, but that's it. And, that's, but even then, it's, just enough to establish it. But yeah, so those were a few of the things that I enjoyed about this. The other thing, I mean, once again, dialogue right out of the game. Dialogue's just taken straight out of the game and just implemented right when it was. So she gets the medicine, she brings it back, like I said, and so she's nursing Joel back to health, and she leads them away. And, that's when David really comes in the fray, right? And David is this ruthless, well, he comes across as this very nice guy, who doesn't want to kill anybody, who doesn't want to harm anybody. But in reality, he's very ruthless and very cunning, and he's, as he said, he has a violent heart. And I mean, that scene when she's in the cell and basically saying, I know what kind of heart you have. You've got a violent heart too. And yeah, it's one of those things where Ellie has to start looking within herself a little bit, right? And everything that David was describing about her was spot on. Okay. She's loyal. She has a violent heart. She, everything about it. And so that is the um, that is the thing. Now, David, while he's a cult leader, I mean, is Craig Mason said in the behind the inside the episode, this was their cult episode. Okay. Um, so he had a right hand man. Okay. And here's Troy Baker. Troy Baker finally makes his introduction into the show as James. And, so after after their the mass, and then right in the beginning, James is coming out and saying, we've only got about a week left, you know, and David's basically calling him out, says, you don't believe? He's like, yeah, I'll follow you, you know, but I'm a little bit skeptical. And so when they're going hunting after Ellie, basically James and everybody else wants to kill him. And he says, it's just another mouth to feed. And, where David is like, you know what? We're going to take her in. You know, we're going to be merciful to her. And basically, it's so he can, you know, have his way with her, and train her. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where Joel is for the first half of the episode is basically non non-existent. Um, but yeah, I thought the whole episode was good. I mean, once again, I knew the story. Um, everything about this was just okay. At the end of the day, it comes down to this. Okay, they spent $10 to $15 million an episode on this. You know where it went, right? They didn't half-ass this. They could have very easily um, said, you know what, we're going to make for half the amount of money, and they didn't. They said, we're going to put everything we have, all of our resources, into this. And that is the um, that is the beauty about this. And I mean, I've said it, others on the stream have said it. This is the best video game adaptation we've ever had of anything. Okay. Um, and look, if we're not talking about, Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey having Emmys next year, I don't know what you got to do. And they could only put this on uh, streaming. There's no way cable would have touched this, and I don't think you could have put it on cable because there would have been limitations. Um, I mean, the interrogation story of Joel. Let's talk about the F for a minute. I mean, straight out of the game, right? Not only is it straight out of the game, but you know, it's one of those things that Ellie picks up in the second game. But that being said, it's just so well done. Um, I can't begin. I mean, look, the finale is going to be fantastic, and we'll talk about what time that's going to be next. In a few minutes. But it's one of those things where This whole thing, it's just it's fantastic. And when I say they, I mean Neil Druckmann, Craig Mazin, and everybody else has done a remarkable job of putting this to, whether it's script to screen. And they should be very proud because it's one of those things where I think that it's, I don't know, I think it's one of the best adaptations, or if not the best adaptation I've ever seen. Um, yeah, thoughts about it. It's. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this. This is more of a, you know, I would even go say this is like a master class. And one of one of the co-hosts on here that occasionally comes on, Tyler, has said that they should take this template, right? They should take this template and they should apply this to every um, video game adaptation that they do. And he's right, because if you have the writing, okay, this is going to work. Now, that being said, this is a very, very story driven uh, story series. Now, the other thing too is Destiny on here at one point said she wished she had seen more infected, and I tend to agree with her on that. Um, we're 8 episodes in, okay, and we've only really had infected in 3 of them. Okay, if you take out the first one, you've only had it in the Boston one. Okay, you didn't have any in Billstown. You had the big to do with the bloater, okay, and the clickers. Um, and then there was one more episode. I don't really count last week as Left Behind as having infected because they're not in danger. Um, there was a stalker. Okay, one stalker. But I'm talking about multiple times in which they're in peril. And I just didn't see that. That would be the one gripe. Now, it doesn't have to be in every episode. Something like Billstown, which was, I think, the best episode of this series so far. Um, you didn't, you know, that is understandable. The first episode is understandable. Um, but a little more danger. And look, in the game, you do have hunters and you do have, all these other things, and that's fine. But I'm really curious, you know, to see what they do in season two. Now, getting back to this episode, that's what makes David so vile, right? Is the fact that they're willing to, kill and eat their dead to survive. Now you say, well, that's, you do what you got to do. I mean, it's a morality thing, right? Are you going to starve or are you going to do what you have to do? And he said, he was saying to Ellie when she was locked up, there's only a few people that know. You know, I would have probably told you at some point. I mean, but a very disgusting, vile thing, to say the least. And that's how when she escapes and it's like, I'm infected. I mean, and basically kills Joel. I mean, cleaver to the cleaver to the neck there. And then David misses with a couple gunshots, and that's when the whole So she tries to throw the amber, the thing, and lights up the lodge, and I mean, you just see the violence in her heart as she's killing David. And she's walking out, and, you know, I mean, Joel's there to save her, but this wasn't even a filler episode. Was it as good as Bill's Town? No. Was it, but it was definitely not a filler episode. Like Left Behind, that was DLC. You could technically call that a filler episode, okay? But it was a whole story in itself about Riley and Ellie. So, okay. But yeah, I mean, and by the way, I think this was the perfect amount of episodes. Would have the finale next week, and it's just, I think any more than 9, it would have been dragging it out even further. So I think it was really good. I, you know, um, Overall, I mean, as I keep saying, incredible television, um, the right amount of episodes. The cast is who they got. They did it perfectly. Um, and I'm really curious to see, you know, we all know what happened. Well, I shouldn't say we all know. If you played the game, you know. If you played the game, you know. Uh, if you haven't played the game, what's wrong with you? I'm kidding. But in all honesty, if you haven't played the game and you stayed away from it, then you have no idea what happens. So next week will be a treat. Um, I think that it's going to be really good. Uh yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's a phenomenal, one of the best, if not the best series, limited series of television that we've had in years. So, um, and if that's true, and what Neil Druckmann said, and actually starting to film this year, look out. You're talking about maybe, I say maybe a 2025 release at some point. So, I mean, I hope that what they do is, um, I hope they film it all together. That would be the way to go. It would be cheaper, but, you know, for all post and everything else, it would be a lot easier. So, um, but yeah, this is a this I don't know what else to say about it. It was a good episode. Another good entry into this series. Um, and we'll see. I like I said, anybody who's played the game knows what happens for the finale. Um, I'm really curious to see how they're going to do it. And speaking of the finale, this is where the little interesting thing comes in. So the finale, okay, next week, there's a little event happening next week, and it's the biggest event in the entertainment business. Bigger than the Globes, bigger than the Critics' Choice, bigger than any of them. And that's the Oscars. The Oscars are next week, guys. So it's one of those things where, as a content creator, you go, what do you do? What do you do? First of all, I think the Oscars is going to have a great show, especially. We'll be curious to see what happens. Um, as far as the stream is concerned, we're going to push that to Monday. I think that's probably the right thing to do, because all of the eyes are going to be on ABC, and it's it's foolish to. So the Last of Us is going to be on at 6 p.m. and the Oscars starts at the same time, I believe, 6 p.m. Pacific. So the first hour is going to, be The Last of Us and whatever. So I think what we're going to do is change the. We're going to go on Monday, um, and that way you guys can watch the episode and then come in and talk to us about it, and we can watch the Oscars. So what we're going to do is um, we are going to watch the Oscars, and then I'm going to come on after the Oscars, and hopefully we'll have a couple people here, and we are going to do a live stream. And this is going to be a long one. So a little backstory: we're going to have Matthew Anderson on Friday, so talk about predictions, and then so on Sunday, as I said, the show will be. Then we're going to come back here after, uh, and talk Oscars and everything else on Monday. Stay tuned because that's when we're going to have the Last of Us um, stream. And then Tuesday, we've got a special guest coming on, interviewer. He's a Twitch streamer. He is a YouTuber. He has a whole lot more followers than I do. He has about 61,000 followers or subscribers on YouTube. But more importantly, he just put out a fantastic video on The Last of Us that is amazing. So we're going to have him on. And then on Friday, as I said, we're going to have Matthew Anderson on. And yeah, it's one of those things where um, it's going to be a busy week in that regard. And so then we're going to have, so March and April are going to be, um, well, so don't forget, every single Wednesday, we are going to be doing The Mandalorian too. So we're going to be doing The Mandalorian episode 2 next week. Okay. So we've got The Last of Us, which is tonight. And next week will be Monday. We will do that. Kyle and I just did our Creed 3 spoiler cast the other day. And by the way, guys, if you're looking for all these shows and everything else, go under if you go to live or playlists, and then you should see something like that. Um, and that will help you out find these streams because I don't cut a lot of these up. Then we have Guardians of the Galaxy. So these are going to be all the spoiler casts I'm going to be doing. So we've got Guardians of the Galaxy, which is in May. Across the Spider-Verse, which starts in June. Now, I'm not going to cover, truth be told, I'm not going to cover Fast X or any of those. June's going to be crazy, though, because you've got this, you've got Transformers, Rise of the Beasts, you've got The Flash, okay? And at the end of the month, you've got Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny. So June's going to be nuts. So stay tuned for all that. And then in July, I think the biggest movie of the year is going to be Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. I do. I thought it had a chance to make $200 million opening weekend, but now looking back on that, I don't know. I mean, it will do a solid 100 plus, but it's not going to make 200, just because of all the other films out. So, and then Oppenheimer comes out the next week, and that same week, actually, Barbie comes out. So there's a ton of stuff to be we're going to be covering here on the channel. And that's it. Not to mention, you're going to be getting the perfect movies, first reactions, the roundups. Now that being said, I am going to sit down and watch Fargo in a week or two, and we're going to do that for the first reactions, and then you're going to be getting another one in March. So that way we're caught up. And yeah. So the only thing I would ask is, even if you popped in here for a minute or two, please hit that like and hit that subscribe button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's you're getting more stuff on here for free than you would be on, let's say, a Netflix, and you're paying $10 a month at least minimum for that, and half that stuff's not even good. um, but you get all this stuff for free, guys, and not to mention on occasion we're going to be having interviews. So this is so much cheaper too, as far as content. Um, but yeah, so please hit that like and subscribe button. That's the only way this gets out to the people. Um, and yeah, so as I said, next week, what we're gonna do, the Oscars are on next week, and then what we're gonna do is we are going to do the Last of Us stream on Monday. Parker will be on Tuesday, and then we are going to be doing Matthew will be on Friday, and we're going to be having a show, at least one show during that week. So, but yeah, so that's about it. So then so go back and watch the roundup. Had a couple of interesting stories. I think one was about Kiwai Kwan and Creed 3. And so we are going to be having a show tomorrow. So if you missed this live stream or you missed anything else, we will be having a show tomorrow. We'll be talking all about Creed 3. So nice to see that do the numbers it did and the possibility of that franchise. But yeah, that's about it. I don't have anything much to say after that. Like I said, guys, if you're not already, please like and subscribe. By the way, that is my Twitter down there on the bottom left. If I'm always on Twitter watching movies, or not watching movies, but talking about movies. I'm tired, forgive me. But yeah, I'm always on there talking about movies and whatever. So come follow me there. And guys, I gotta say, if you are on, I know this won't go to everybody, but and I'll put this out in a tweet in a couple minutes. If you're on Twitter and you are following me, please subscribe to the channel because I have a lot of people. I look at all these videos and 95% of them are not subscribed. So, that would help me out greatly and intently. So, yeah. But okay. So, this was a short one just because we didn't really have anybody else here. Stay tuned for the show tomorrow. Big week coming up. Oscars on Sunday. And I will see you guys tomorrow. So do the 3 things that you need to do. Be safe, be careful, and have a great day tomorrow. My name is David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.